You know the feeling, right? You're in a big meeting, a project tick-off, and everyone agrees on the goal. It feels great, but then nothing. The project just stalls. Well, in this explainer, we're going to dig into why that happens so often, and I'll bet the reason is not what you think it is.
It sounds totally backwards, doesn't it? I mean, agreement is what we want. But just think about it for a second. You're in that room, the big idea hits the table, and you see heads start nodding. Yes, this is it. There's this wave of relief and unity, and it's right there, in that perfect moment, that the trap is set for complete gridlock.
So to really understand why things just fall apart, we've got to rewind a bit. We need to look at that amazing feeling at the start, that moment of easy agreement that feels so incredibly productive.
Yeah, this is the honeymoon phase of any group decision. The energy is just electric. Everybody's aligned on the what. The goal is shiny, it's exciting, and everyone is on board. You walk out of that meeting thinking, wow, the hard part's over. Now we just have to do it.
But then the next meeting rolls around. The agenda item is simple. Decide on the how, the first step, the actual plan. And suddenly, crickets. That powerful momentum from just a few days ago, it's gone, vanished, and nobody seems to have a clue why.
Naturally, our brains hate a vacuum. When progress just stops cold, the first thing we do is start looking for a reason. And, let's be honest, we usually start looking for a person to blame.
The first finger usually points right to the top. What's going on with the person in charge? They were so clear before. Why aren't they making a call now? You start to wonder, maybe they've lost their nerve.
Okay, so if it's not the leader, it's got to be the team, right? Maybe that initial excitement was just, a flash in the pan. We start thinking, are people just lazy? Did they stop caring?
And if those two explanations don't quite fit, our minds can wander to some more dramatic places. Maybe someone in the room never really agreed in the first place. Maybe there's a saboteur, someone quietly killing the project with inaction. But what if we're looking in completely the wrong direction? What if the villain isn't a person at all? What if the problem is the agreement? That wonderful consensus that felt so good is actually the real source of the paralysis.
And this brings us to this really fascinating, hidden dynamic at play in so many groups. It's called the inertia of consent.
So what does that actually mean? It means that when everyone says yes at the beginning, it creates this invisible but incredibly powerful social momentum. It sets this new standard of perfect harmony, and now any suggestion that might disrupt that harmony feels super risky for any one person to make.
Let's use an analogy here. Imagine your group's shared goal is this massive boulder. All that initial excitement and agreement, that was the effort of everyone getting together to push it and get it rolling in the same direction.
See, now that the boulder is rolling, it has momentum. It represents the group's collective will. Now, who wants to be the one person to jump out in front of that thing and say, hey guys, wait, let's try to steer it just a little bit to the left. It feels terrifying, right? You're not just offering an opinion, you feel like you're trying to stop a freight train with your bare hands.
So let's just break down how this psychological shift happens. Step 1. Harmony. Everyone's celebrating the shared goal. Step 2. The focus shifts from the big what to the messy how. And this is where the risk suddenly skyrockets. Proposing a specific plan could be the first point of disagreement. The first person brave enough to suggest a path forward instantly becomes the target for everyone's scrutiny. So what does everyone else learn? That silence is safe. Inaction is the easiest path.
And here's the really tricky part. This isn't just something that happens once. Oh no. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. It actually feeds itself. So the cycle kicks off with that first beautiful moment of total agreement. It felt so good, so productive, that it accidentally becomes the new gold standard. Now, the group subconsciously expects every other decision to be just as smooth.
And because that expectation for harmony is so high, the personal cost of breaking it feels huge. I mean, who wants to be the one person to introduce friction into this perfect harmonious machine? The personal risk just feels way too high.
And so, what does every rational person in the room do? They get cautious. They stay quiet. It's not that people don't have ideas. They probably have tons of them. It's that they've all done a quick, silent calculation and realized the risk of being seen as the difficult one is way higher than any potential reward for speaking up. And here's the kicker that closes the loop. Everyone looks around, sees the silence, and mistakes it for continued agreement. They think, wow, we're all still on the same page. This makes the consensus seem even stronger, which makes the inertia even heavier, which stalls the decision even more. And the cycle just keeps going.
So you might be thinking, okay, if we can see this happening, why can't we just fix it? Why do even our best intentions to break the cycle seem to fail, or even make things worse?
Well, this is where it gets really frustrating, because our good intentions just feed the machine. A leader says, come on team, let's just make a decision. But what the system hears is, okay, who's brave enough to be the target? When we say we need everyone to be honest, the system hears who wants to risk their career by being a dissenter. Every single plea for action just puts more pressure on one person to go stand in front of that rolling boulder.
And this leads us to the final and maybe most uncomfortable truth of all. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. The gridlock we all hate so much is a feature, not a bug. The system's main goal has secretly shifted from achieve the project to protect the group's harmony at all costs. And from that point of view, it's a wild success.
So that stall, that frustration, that complete lack of progress, it isn't chaos. It's actually the perfectly logical, predictable outcome of a system that has started to value the feeling of agreement more than the actual work. So I'll leave you with this thought. The next time you're in one of those meetings, and the silence is so thick you could cut it with a knife, just consider this. What if you're not looking at a room of unmotivated or indecisive people? What if you're actually looking at a room full of highly intelligent, rational people who have all, on their own, correctly assessed the situation and concluded that the safest, smartest thing they can do is absolutely nothing at all?